Welcome, my friends, to the showdown between the Warriors of Chaos, who shall be led by Kolek. And today, guys, we face off against the dreaded Wood Elves, who shall be led by Hadris, as well as Durthu. And it looks like, guys, they're coming in with a tree Death Star. And very convenient for them, there is indeed a forest right in front of their deployment zone. So I was kind of expecting this, because in the faction war, we held, God, it must have been like about a week or two by now. But nonetheless, in the faction war, we had Xiphos facing off against Zero. So it was the same matchup. It was Wood Elves against Chaos. And Xiphos came in, everyone was expecting Way Watchers and Kite, but he came in with a tree build. He found a nice little forest to kind of camp in, and it seemed almost pretty much impossible for the Warriors of Chaos to crack it with what they had. The Chaos army in that matchup had a bunch of Chaos Knights. I believe it had a single Shaggoth, which is pretty good against trees, but nonetheless against a true tree Death Star, it's going to be very tough to bring those guys down. So you can see here, I was somewhat prepared for it and was sort of expecting it. Granted, you have to respect both styles of play. Number one, you have to respect the Way Watchers. As such, I do have some mobile assets here in the army. I have Chaos Knights, I have two groups of Hounds, one to the far side, and two groups of Marauder Horse Masters to make sure I have enough tools to kind of chase down mobile threats and go after Way Watchers if he does go with Kite. But if he does go with a Blob and a Death Star, I had to bring some heavy hitters. As such, I went with Kolek and a second Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which in a way is another liability against sniping play. For example, against Way Watchers, they go down rather quickly. But in this case, you have to kind of have a balanced formation against both styles of play. So we do have a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth here, Kolek Sun Eater, and also to punish the Blob even further, I do have a Chaos Sorcerer of Metal. So this guy's going to be casting Final Transmutation on that disgusting tree blob, and hopefully that'll be enough to, crack him out of the forest here, but we'll see. It's still going to be very, very hard. And now for the forces of Hadris, he does have four groups of the Glade Riders with Hagbane Tips, which I like quite a bit. Nice tool to kind of count as attacking. Number one, in accordance with the tournament rules. So basically he can camp in the forest with his tree line and just kite me with the Glade Riders, and it does count as attacking. Secondly, pretty good at dealing with Marauder Horsemen and different tools like that. Granted, I have a lot of mobile threats. I have two Hounds, two Horse Masters, and some Chaos Knights. So with some micro, I should be able to corral these guys, get them in a corner, but it's certainly not going to be an easy task. Now for the rest of the army, he does have a combination of the Wildwood Rangers, and these guys can do some work for sure. And you can see they have this nice little buff right here. So Guardians of the Wild Wood. So it's active if they are in the forest, which they will be in just a moment. They get a bonus versus large and charge defense against large. So suddenly this Death Star becomes just so tough to deal with, as all these guys have heavy AP against my Shaggoths and bonus versus large. Talk about Value City. On top of that, he's got Treekin. He has the Firebark Elders, more Treekin, Durthu, as well as a Branch Wraith. So very, very good army for sure. And we'll see if we can crack the shell of this Wood Elf formation. So first things first, I know that I can't really get too much value in this main blob fight here in the forest, so I have to deal with his skirmishers. I have to go after the Glade Riders with the Hagbane Tips, take away his mobility, at which point I can potentially force him out of the forest or get some better engagements. So here are some of the Glade Riders do stop and shoot right here, so my Chaos Knights are going to be pressing in on them. My Hounds are going to collapse right here, and the Hounds are pretty quick. Even when poisoned, they do have pretty good speed and acceleration, and I do actually nip at the heels here of these Glade Riders. We're able to get an early catch on two groups here. Granted, I do not believe they're both poisoned, but my Horse Masters, now that they are buffed up by the Hounds essentially, or the Hounds are kind of nerfing the speed of these Glade Riders, are able to kind of keep pace, and they also attack while moving, so I'm doing some okay damage here so far. I sent one group of Forsaken to intercept as well to try and take away some angles, and also these Chaos Warhounds with Poison are coming from across the map, and they have a pretty good angle of pursuit. I mean, the world is my oyster here. I can basically choose to pick off any of these groups, and you can see I'm taking an angle here, trying to get a good engagement and collapse this kind of blob of skirmishers. Now in the mainline fighting, there's a little bit of poke in the front line. Chaos Marauders have engaged against Eternal Guard, but I'm being very conservative. Basically, I'm just sitting back here. I don't have to engage, but let's just take some fights with the Marauders in the front line against the Eternal Guard, which is actually going pretty bad. You can see the Eternal Guard with the buff of the Branch Wraith are doing much better. And Durthu's also going to be stepping into this tree line, so the Shaggoths are going to have to get busy here in a moment. In the meantime, the other Forsaken are going to be pushing into the trees, going after the back of the Wildwood Rangers, and the picks are going well. Most of the Glade Riders are pretty much done for. I think we took out two groups in their entirety, just about, and the other two are about to be caught by my Horse Masters, as well as my Chaos Knights. So pretty good skirmishing phase for sure. Now back here, my Marauders are getting absolutely pounded, and this is where things get really difficult. I sent in the Shaggoths to try and go after Kolek, but he has the buffering of all these Firebark Elders and also the Eternal Guard with their anti-large. So there's a lot of variables here that are just not good for me. Also, something else I didn't take into account is the fact that Hadris does have a Manticore summon. So I didn't see that Manticore caster, and I forgot that Durthu, I didn't see that Durthu had brought that. I thought he just brought the Branch Wraith with the Earthblood. Nonetheless, though, Kolek gets beaten up, my Shaggoth gets beaten up, Durthu basically takes minimal damage, and of course he has healing and I don't. But we're going to be responding here with not an overcasted version, just a standard Final Transmutation, because I started with a very low amount of Winds of Magic, and basically I didn't have the time to kind of wait for that. One group of Forsaken was on a route to kind of head these guys off, but I figured that my Horse Masters at this point could maybe, deal with them. So I'm going to be pulling the Forsaken back for this engagement. And basically, I just have to retreat. Like, the forest battle's going horribly. Here on the flank, the Wildwood Rangers actually were able to defeat the Forsaken, which I was actually quite surprised about. Forsaken do really good damage against light armor. They have 40 armor, but I guess the combat stats of Wildwood Rangers and the offensive output was enough to really burn through the Forsaken. So still good value, though. I mean, we did some good damage to a very expensive unit. I believe Wildwood Rangers cost about 400 more than Forsaken, so I guess it's not the end of the world. Now, a couple things have gone well this battle. We've been able to win the skirmishing phase. The Glade Riders of the Hagbane Tips have been chased off. The Hounds have chased them off every edge of the map. Chaos Knights are now coming in as well. Granted, my Shaggots are really beat up, and I just need to wait out these Manticores. The Manticores are really good at, just doing punching against something like a Dragon Ogre, but especially my caster, the Chaos Sorcerer, could get gooned out pretty well. Now, the Branch Wraith comes out in the open field, a little bit exposed away from its tree pack, so we're going to be going in and trying to goon that character out. In the meantime, Chaos Knights get a huge lancing charge into the forest. But honestly, even though it looked really cool, they're going to be taking a penalty for fighting in the forest. And secondly, Wildwood Rangers here do have bonus versus large while they're fighting in the trees. So my Chaos Knights are going to be getting chopped down as well. So it's a bit of a back and forth there. Now, as far as the Branch Wraith goes, we did accidentally punch her back here because Kolek made an attack and sent her flying, and basically launched her right back into the loving arms of her faction here. Another final transmutation going down, once again hitting the Branch Wraith, the trees. It does not hit Dirthu, unfortunately, so my casting was a little bit off, but it's still good value. We hit a lot of the stuff here, and so far the final transmutations have been very, very helpful, and you can see the bounce power is even in that case. So here Dirthu does come out. He gets the back end of Kolek's giant Star Crusher mace, and he's now going to be retreating back into the forest as the Shaggots are going to be pursuing. But every time I go back into the forest, typically something bad happens to me. So in this case, we're going to be pulling back here in a moment and trying to get a better engagement. Chaos Knights have to pull back. My Marauders are losing their fights. The Forsaken are losing the fights. The only ones who are still fighting and doing somewhat well are the Mirror Guard here in the center map. So you can see they have 40 kills, but Sword of Dates doing some really nice AoE damage. Again, the Wood Elves certainly have some good blobbing techniques here. So Dragon Ogre Shaggoth going to be pulling back here, and I know that I have the ranged advantage now. My Marauder Horsemasters are on their way back from their great journey here to conquer those Glade Riders with the Hagbane Tips. So they're going to be coming back in now, and basically I'm like, okay, if I can do some damage here, just do a little bit of punch with my Shaggoths, pick off some casters, whatever have you, what kind of damage we can do, I can then bring in the Marauder Horsemasters, use them to kind of poke the big targets and force the Wood Elves out of the forest, because typically when we play these matches, we're playing under tournament rules, and you can't just you have to count as attacking. So if I'm attacking by using my Marauder Horsemasters, throwing those javelins at the trees and whatnot, and they're not attacking me at all, they're just sitting there in the tree line, they do have to count as attacking and be pursuing something, so that's an advantage I do have in this situation. Now we are able to catch the Firebark Elders a little bit out of the tree line here, so Kolek is going to be charging in with a giant hammering blow. It looks like he might have taken out one of those guys. No, he didn't, man. These Firebark Elders are super tanky, just rocking 62 melee defense, also have massive physical resist, so they're just very tough to kill. But it looks like in the moment I speak, a couple of those Firebark Elders do go down to Kolek's attacks. We take out 2, which is very valuable. So now the Wood Elves are going to be sallying out of the forest here, getting ready to engage. But I do, again, have the ranged advantage, and there is a Manticore summon, so at this point, basically just use my ammunition from the Marauder Horsemasters to attack, to poke, and to wait out this Manticore summon, because fighting there is basically suicide. If I fight there, the Eternal Guard, the Treekin, and Dirthu, of course, who's supported by all those units, and I believe they still have the Branch Wraith. Yeah, the Branch Wraith is still in here as well, so an Earthblood could go off. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be very bad about that. Now, very scary situation here, guys. Wood Elves do pull ahead in the bounce of power. Actually pretty noticeable for the first time here in the battle. You can see my Chaos Sorcerer Metal is going to be juking out this Manticore, but the Manticore is pretty quick, and I do get hit there, so it looks like the Manticore was able to clip the back of that Chaos Sorcerer, and it really buggy, it flew over him and hit him as he was going over. That's very strange. But nonetheless, going to be getting the Sorcerer back, using our Marauder Horsemasters to throw in and chip whatever HP we can off Dirthu, because in the late game, every ounce of HP is going to matter. Now, if we look around the battlefield, I have some Chaos Knights here. 28, certainly pretty good. I got some Mirror Guard coming back over there. We do also have some Chaos Marauders on the low ground here. And this is a situation you don't see terribly often. The Warriors of Chaos kiting the Wood Elves, certainly a bit of an odd situation to say the least. Dirthu has been taken down about 400 HP since our skirmishing phase did start, and so far the Chaos Sorcerer has been getting hunted. And I could go help with the Shaggoths, but my Shaggoths are both pretty low, and I didn't want to fight the Manticore. I figured I could just juke it with the Chaos Sorcerer and he would be able to take it like a champ. That's what's cool about Chaos casters. Had this been an Imperial caster or any sort of caster from most factions, most of them have light armor, but in the case of Chaos Sorcerers do actually have 90 armor, so they're relatively tanky compared to other factions. So now we've been able to pull them out into open field, so at this point I just have to use my ammunition. I have to try and pull these guys apart. Chaos Knight's going for a charge up here on Dirthu, getting a little bit of damage, but I have to pull out pretty quick because the Treekin, of course, and Dirthu has great AP himself, but Treekin don't. But still, they can roadblock my Chaos Knights and trap the models, and it's not the best situation. On the low ground, we have Kolek going, and I have a fair amount of Winds of Magic coming back in my pool. My Chaos Sorcerer is in good shape. I have some Hounds over here as well. And I'm basically just buying time, just doing some skirmishing and hoping that I'll get enough Winds of Magic to cast another Final Transmutation. And as a matter of fact, Hadri's and I were in chat during this game, and he's like, "You're waiting for another Final Transmutation, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, Anakin, yes." Anyways, Kolek's going to be coming here. A good isolation, able to get a big old blow on Durthu. And Durthu's going to be taking some hammering here for sure. Kolek, it's very hard. Oh, look at the big slow-mo overhead clobber in time blow coming down right there. Chaos Knights won't do much against Durthu's hide. They don't have the best AP values, but still they're, kind of blocking him up, doing some chipping damage. And like I said, every ounce of damage counts at this point. The Chaos Sorcerer lurking in the wings, the other Dragon Ogre Shaggoth just waiting for an opportunity where it's very, very choice to go in here, just trying to pull apart this Wood Elf Death Star. So we have some Wildwood Rangers trying to intercept, but they no longer have the bonus first large now that they've been forced out of the forest here. So the Chaos Knights falling back. Here comes Kolek, going to be dropping a big old hammer time, and the Chaos Knights surging in, going to be pounding those lightly armored Wildwood Riders, or Wildwood Rangers, whatever they're called. And you can see they're down to a couple models now. Looks like they only have 17 left. And we get our damage. In the meantime, our Marauder Horsemasters still throwing their javelins, getting some good poke and stroke there, certainly doing some work. And it looks like Durthu is down to about 2200 HP. Some Hounds here are going to be attacking Eternal Guard, should be able to get some okay damage. The melee attack versus melee defense ratio in this engagement isn't great, but basically I'm just trying to attack things randomly. Not randomly, in a calculated sense, to keep them from kind of blobbing up and standing on top of Durthu. Now here the Branch Wraith does overextend a little bit, so the Shaggoths are going to be taking advantage of this opportunity, trying to do some damage here, but when she's on the ground getting knocked over, I'm not going to be able to do too much work. So a lot of the Wood Elf units are getting very low. If I can break anything, I still have the mobility advantage, so at that point I'm going to be able to potentially chase things off with my Hounds, my Chaos Knights, and all the troops like that. And up here we have a good situation. You can see Kolek is, big old Durthu is chasing down these Chaos Knights here, looking to branch those guys in the face. But it also presents an opportunity because the Shaggoths are much faster. These guys have 78 speed here. They were fighting in this situation, but now we have an opportunity to go after Durthu. And the Bounce Bar is still Wood Elf favored, but this is big, guys. If we can get the good engagement here, oh, look at that. Kolek topples the tree. But, it's a bit of an annoying thing because he's on the ground now and I can't really hit him. So I'm losing out on attacks. Also, we have a Final Transmutation. So here it comes, guys. Watch the bounce of power. Is it going to come back into the favor of the Warriors of Chaos? The Dark God's Call down to 195, and Durthu is probably going to be taking a death blow here from Kolek. And it looks like, oh man, it's such a close situation. Here comes Kolek, winding up 165. Is Durthu going to go down to this very important stuff? And he gets the clobbering time, and down goes Durthu. So the tree has fallen, and it looks like the Mountain God himself has claimed potential victory here in the battlefield, as it does give the Bounce of Power advantage here to the Warriors of Chaos. Now, there are some Treekin, there are some Eternal Guard, but Kolek is somewhat healthy for this stage in the game. We also have a Chaos Sorcerer, we have some Chaos Knights who are in okay shape. 18 to 45 model, certainly not bad. And some Marauder Horsemasters, which we can use to chase things down. On top of that, my Shaggoth has rallied here on the edge, and he has 400 HP, so if he has to fight anything, it's going to be rough if they're fighting back. However, if we can chase off something like the Firebark Elders, make sure that those very tanky elite trees don't come back, that's going to be a huge value train. So basically at this point, just being very, very cautious, chasing down routing units, making sure the Wood Elves can't get a rally here. So chasing off the Branch Wraith to prevent Earthbloods, chasing down the Eternal Guards to get rid of the anti-large, all very, very important stuff. You can see in the distance here, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is able to take out the Firebark Elders. So Wood Elves are still fighting here. Kolek is going to be clubbing on some of these trees, but he's still taking a bit of damage for sure. He's at 2100, but the Chaos Knights were chasing things off, but I figured if I got a big rear charge penalty on these guys, that would be enough to probably trigger army losses if they broke as well. And you can see here the Wood Elves are going to be going into mass exodus, it looks like, guys. Now, there still are some Wood Elves coming back in, some Treekin and whatnot, but I pretty much have a Goon Squad at this point that's going to be indestructible. I mean, not literally, but there's not enough DPS on the field for the Wood Elves. Treekin are very tanky, but they don't hit terribly hard against any form of armor. Kolek's got 95. Chaos Knights have like 100 something, and yeah, it's not going to be great for them. So very well played to Hadri's. That was an insane game. And really, I think one of the big deciding factors was the fact that we were able to really shut down the skirmishers. The 4 groups of the Glade Riders with the bows, if we hadn't gotten them so efficiently, I think we might have just lost, because he would have had enough focus fire to poke my Shaggoths down when they got low, and he could have then camped in the forest and just poked me and things like that. So the initial engagements and picking off the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips was super important. But on top of that, being prepared for a Wood Elf blob, I would recommend something like this if you're expecting it or you're playing against someone who knows, but it's well-rounded enough. If they go Way Watchers, all right, you have Chaos Knights, you have Hounds, you have Marauder Horsemasters, you have a couple Forsaken, which are actually surprisingly good at pursuing Way Watchers. And then if they go with a blob, you have Kolek, you have a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and you also do have a Chaos Sorcerer of Metal to drop those final transmutations. So there's some give and take on both sides, but I think it was a well-rounded build, and it didn't do bad. And yeah, for his build, it was a tough cookie to crack. I mean, the only way we did it was when we forced him out of the forest and were able to chase off the skirmishers. But had we not been able to, and we had to fight that in the forest, we probably would have just 100% lost, because the buffs that these guys get in the forest, the Wildwood Rangers, of the bonus first large of 12, I think, is super powerful. So anyways, guys, well played to Hadri's. Hopefully you enjoyed this Warriors of Chaos for his Wood Elf game, and we'll see you guys in the next few days. Take care.